Yo, BJ Gaddour with the BJ Gaddour podcast. And today's episode, I think you'll really like it. It's timely. I turn 42 next week, and one of our VIP members, Tom Boyle, shout out to him for this episode, requested this. And that's one thing our VIP members get is priority reply to comments. They get input on future content. They get exclusive ad-free monthly training plan or challenge. We're doing the 28-day Hanks challenge right now. So straighten it out a little bit. Okay, there we go. That's good for you guys. Yeah, so I wanted to give a shout out to him for inspiring this episode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go decade by decade, teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50 and beyond. Obviously, I've got experience in everything besides that fifth decade, but I definitely have some insights, having worked with a lot of people over 50 throughout the years, in addition to kind of planning for that 50th decade plus, especially as someone who makes a living with his body. So if I want to still do this, I've got to find a way to stay off the injured reserve. The best ability is availability. I think you'll really like it, guys. I hope this helps a lot. And, one thing, just want to remind you guys, we're already in the 28-day Hanks challenge, but you can start anytime. I've got the link in the comments pinned, also in the description. And by the way, it's $19.99 for the month. You can cancel anytime, less than $1 a day. And it's a 28-day progressive program, daily variation, weekly progression. It's a decade plus for me of doing daily hangs. And I bring all of that knowledge to you in a really beautiful, digestible 28-day program. You can do indefinitely, by the way, start anytime. This is an ongoing rotation, but it's designed to be a masterclass on that movement. Bulletproofing the shoulders, the spine, unlocking upper body strength and stamina, and offsetting a lot of the damage of gravity and aging, especially if you sit a lot. So this is going to be such a beneficial thing. You can see right now I've got my row bars there, pull-up bar there. It's weird when I'm using the camera, but I've got all these options just to help me get it in during the day. So we'll talk about it in the 40s. A lot of things have changed for me over the years. I'm also going to share what I did by the decade. There was some good, there was some bad, and there was some ugly. The ugly I'm paying for today, arthritis and bone spurs. And hopefully you can avoid that if you're younger or if you're dealing with that right now. I did a recent episode too. Be sure to check that out on managing arthritis, pain, and inflammation. More to come as well, because obviously I'm balls deep in that decade. But we'd love you to join, guys. This stuff takes a lot of time and energy to produce. And it's your way to support the channel, but also get that exclusive programming. And then, we have our insiders, which is only $4.99 a month. And that's getting early access to content that I schedule, members only live stream. And there's the benefactor, $2.99 a month. You love the channel. Just want to help us keep the lights on and help us grow. We need your support. We'd love your support. You click the join button underneath this video or any video that we have here. Click, the links in the video description or in the comments. So we'd love your support there. And finally, show sponsor, Athletic Greens or AG1, my daily greens and multivitamin. I've been taking it daily since 2017. My members, they know that. It's just part of what I do to get my micronutrition, round out my nutritional basis, so to speak, or nutritional insurance. You can get 5 free travel packs and a 1-year supply of vitamin D by going through my link in the video description or in the comments. So let's start. And I'm going to give you an overview of essentially what this is. It's in the thumbnail as well, but each decade I have a word that describes a phase of life, and everyone's going to have a different journey in this. And that's kind of what I'm going to give you general tips. I'll share my personal journey and kind of also hopefully give you some insights in terms of how you can kind of make this your own, so to speak. But, teens is about building. So build. The 20s, peak phase. 30s, prime phase. 40s is a rebuild phase. And 50 plus is, from what I've gathered from people in my space that are friends and that are older than me, that I've got, wisdom and advice from, guys like Dave Schmitz, Dave Jack, people, that I've looked up to or have mentored me along the way. And just also, forecasting, having done this a very long time. And I always try to stay a decade ahead. Now I'm trying to stay decades ahead. That's the wisdom that comes with experience and doing this a very long period of time. But 50 plus is the mastery phase. of training. And there's some big shifts that happen along the way. So I'm going to start with the teens, and I'm going to kind of give general, and I'll share my experience as well. So the teens, I describe this phase also as like whatever you do during this time, 13 to 19, as long as you stay in motion, like you'll be able to do this and you stay healthy and God forbid nothing terrible happens to you or whatever, you're going to be able to retain these skills for life. A lot of the workouts I did in my high school weight room, I can lean on that base. I do. And I'm able to do like a variety of improvisation and creativity and freestyle and intuitive auto-regulated training now because of that base I built during that time. There's been research about juvenile hypertrophy, meaning, it's a period of time. Like I remember from my sophomore to junior year, I gained 105 pounds. It was a lot of fat, but also there was a lot of muscle and strength built as well. I started literally with the barbell, 45-pound barbell, bench, squat, deadlift, power clean. And I was able to build those lifts up to, 300 plus pound bench, 400 plus pound squat, 500 plus pound deadlift. And the most I ever hang cleaned in college was 275 for 8 reps. So I did build a big, strong powerlifting base. And it's a period of insane muscle growth because of the hormonal, especially for boys. And so if you miss that window, it does make it harder to build muscle later in life. And/or if you have periods of time where you're kind of off or injured or, life gets in the way, you can jump back on that train much better. It's like riding a bike. The muscle memory's in place and you can get back into it a lot faster having had that teenage base. That being said, I made some big mistakes. I never built a body weight base. You know what I'm saying? Like it was all about the bar, the weight, the load. There was no real emphasis on push-ups, body weight squats, lunges, or, inverted rows or pull-ups or even hangs. Like I wish we could have just started with hangs and planks. Hangs, planks, and I guess you could say deep squat mobility would have been a great place for me to start. Not that I can't do the barbell stuff. I mean, there's a place for it. If you're trying to build maximum strength, power, and size, people have always done it via the barbell. It is what it is. Not that they have to do it for the rest of their life, but again, a lot of the muscle you gain earlier in life, you can maintain without having necessarily do that style of training later in life when it starts to betray you, which it will for most people. A lot of the stuff we did when we were young does betray you at a certain age in terms of you can't recover from it. It hurts, or you don't want to do it anymore for whatever reason, right? Because especially as you get older, more responsibility, more work stress, you're trying to, especially like the 40s, right? 40s, 50s, we're trying to accumulate as much wealth as possible and security and stability so we can retire and not have to work till the day we die, or at least have the option to not work till the day we die, right? So I missed the body weight base, and I do recommend it. I'm biased, but I wrote the book, Your Body is Your Barbell, over a decade ago, 2014. Yeah. So it's about a decade now. And it's a battle tested, time tested, like the body weight, the 8 great body movements to start working and building that base. And then once you can do those proficiently with that system of progression, you can start to add in load via weight vest, via dumbbells. And I'd always go dumbbells before barbell because you can work the independent action of limbs, strengthen imbalances between sides, and prioritize more single leg versus double leg strength exercises. And I have my notes here, I'm just checking here, but you want to build a body weight base. But I'd also say I'm an athlete, so I'm biased, but get as involved in athletics as you can and do a variety of sports and cross training. It's not, there's a reason why the best athletes in the world, most of them didn't just do a single sport. Now, some people specialize, but most of these people were tri-sport athletes. They did, let's say, football in the fall, and then they did basketball in the winter or ice hockey. And then in the spring was track and field, or maybe it was baseball, right? They had such a wide variety of skill-based movement. And it's also fun. It is your teens. You're supposed to have a great time, right? And you're supposed to experience a lot of different things. So you know what you actually do enjoy, but it's also a very plastic time for your nervous system. You're going to develop these skills for life. And so maybe you're in your 30s and you get into a rec pickup basketball league or softball, and you're not going to be, you'll be able to be good at it. And that's the reason a lot of those things are, they're social networking opportunities for sure. But for example, people that learn golf early in life, well, maybe it's not the same as it used to be, but golf used to be like the place where a lot of business deals went down. So if you're shitty at golf, you don't know how to golf, or you didn't learn how to golf when you were a kid, and you try to do it later in life, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a full-time job. And they're not going to probably want to play with you because the rate of the play is not good when someone can't golf. It's not something you just pick up, and it's expensive as fuck. But so I am a huge fan, and I played 3 sports up until most of my life I did 3 sports. I kind of focused more football and track, freshman, sophomore and junior year when I identified as a tool to get into really good school. And I did that with football. And then my senior year, once I was in my college, I played basketball because that was my favorite sport. So I played basketball my senior year. But I'm a huge believer in it. And I would push, if you're a parent, I would push you against specializing. We went through now a very big specialization phase, where people are they're pushing their kids very early into one track to try to, again, get the scholarship or, get the competitive edge. The reality is your kid either has it or doesn't have it if they're going to go to that type of world-class level, Olympics, professional sports. And even then, again, LeBron James played football, okay, and basketball. A lot of these kids, they actually, the sport they go into wasn't even their favorite sport, but they just picked what made sense in most cases because of being growing up in a tougher community or, not as much money at home. It was a way to provide for their family. They made business decisions, especially if your kid doesn't need to do that. Get them involved in as a wide variety of activities as possible. Build their physical intelligence, which I believe adds to their social intelligence. And especially when we're talking about not necessarily individual sports, team sports, as a captain at every level, someone who always tried to lead by example. And, the lessons you'll learn winning, losing, the ins and outs, the ebbs and flows of a season, a competitive season, really helps you in a corporate environment with relationships ongoing moving forward. I'm not saying I'm the best at relationships, but I will say that I developed a lot of resilience from the adversity I dealt with as a student athlete. So I'm a big fan of that as well. It's also a time in your teens to establish your big 3. Now, what does that mean? There are 3 exercises, so to speak, that work all of your body collectively that you're going to really work on getting super proficient at. And they're typically at this age, especially if you're going to the athletic track, and what it was for me, again, if it's 3, it was the bench, the squat, the deadlift. And I don't do those anymore with the barbell. I haven't done it for a long time. I started there. I went away from it. Then I came back to it in my early 30s. And then that maybe I'll come back to it in my 50s, but now I don't even have a barbell at home. And I'll talk about, all that as I go into those subsequent decades. But that's typically what we're pushed into is, the bro style bench, squat, deadlift. And, it does work. You can build a lot of strength very, very fast. There's a period of time in my teens where every day, every week, the loads were coming up. There was a PR. It's a great time. Unfortunately, I cashed way too many checks too early in that journey, and I'm paying for it now. Though I did get the benefits of that juvenile strength and muscle gain that I could lean on the rest of my life, but the bone spurs, not so much fun. I could have avoided that. Some of those injuries were on the football field, but the stuff that I think really led to that and also accelerated the damage was in the weight room. So you got to establish your big 3. Now, the reality of that is I don't know anyone that does all of those without having to get a joint replacement by the time they're in their 40s. That still does it past 50. I've never met someone that does. If you know someone, let me know in the comments, but I've never met someone that started there, stayed there, didn't need a joint replacement, and continues to do that in their 50s and 60s. So what that means is if you start there, you're going to have to change it at some point. But I know a lot of people that do body weight style stuff for the rest of their life. You know, I mean, so your big three could also be a more intelligent and more anytime, anywhere type of training system, right? So, for example, with body weight exercise, the three that I've invested in the most, it's a dip, or I guess you could say a push up, that upper body push, the upper body pull, a pull up or an inverted row, starts with a hang, and then some sort of single leg exercise, a lunge, a split squat, or a single leg squat. That collectively works the whole body. I can train that anytime, anywhere, hotel room, at home. I can still go to the gym and do that stuff. I could still incorporate barbell stuff, but because I have proficiency in anytime, anywhere system that travels like a championship defense, that's the sustainability and consistency that I'm gonna have to lean upon in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, when things get real. Now you gotta make your own money. You gotta find a place to live. If you're gonna build a family, you gotta look at that. So now all these things start to close in on you. And if you're relying just on doing that classic bro gym barbell style stuff, that does require more warming up and cooling down and recovery and equipment access and all that stuff, you can find yourself in your 20s, like a lot of people do it. Like, look, I had a lot of teammates in college, and some of these guys were in incredible shape, you know, playing football and, you know, your peak metabolism, all that stuff, hormones. And they got into like Wall Street, or they, you know, became doctors, and like, they don't look the way they used to. Okay. And they've never really evolved the way they trained, and they just stopped. And that's when all of a sudden, okay, now you get hit with the metabolic decline in your 30s, you start gaining belly fat, cortisol goes up, testosterone goes down. Now your dick's not getting up. Now you don't have enough energy. Now you're not sleeping. Now stress is killing you. And now you find yourself in your 40s primed for a heart attack. The decade for men where they're most likely to get that heart attack and die. It's a main cause of death for men in their 40s is a heart attack, or some sort of heart disease or heart event. So I'm outlining that for you because, again, you know, as someone in my teens and 20s, you're not thinking about this. You're immortal. Everything is impulsive. There's no thought that goes into most of the decisions, and any of the thought that typically does is by a parent or a guardian, if you're lucky to have one. So, you know, or a coach or a mentor, whatever. So you want to establish your big three. Now, again, it could be whatever, like for kettlebell training, let's say that's the press / the get up, a pistol squat, and a swing. 3 movements that work the whole body, train all the key muscle qualities that you can invest in your teens, own, and build upon and maintain for the rest of your life. Not that you won't try different stuff, but you've got to have a big three. You know what I'm saying? Like 3 things that you're just always working in some fashion, week in, week out, getting the reps, the muscle memory, constantly widening the base so you can keep climbing higher and higher every year. You want to establish that in your teens. And I was lucky to do that, though I did do so in some cases with not the best form and technique, so I had to refine that. So that's the other side of the coin is you build a base. Again, like, I know you're gonna have to make some mistakes. We all have different personalities. There's kids I play with who, you know, they don't want to go to the weight room. Like, you got to pull them in there. You got to pull teeth to get them in there. They're never going to overtrain. I was more of an overtraining type, always doing too much too soon. I was too impatient, and I wanted it right away. I've gotten more patient, but I still carry that level of, you know, urgency to what I do. And a lot of people, that's why I have trouble working with people, because I'm an executor and I attack things. If I commit to doing something, I attack it with my heart, my soul. I put everything into it because that's how I was raised, or that's how I just developed my work ethic. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing to the best of your ability, especially if it's important, and especially if you find it to be a calling, you know. And a lot of people don't like to go at that pace, or they can't stay at that pace for too long. So, and then kind of establishing a training split in your teens, you know, like I made some of the best gains. And again, it's biased because it's in my teens. I was eating so many calories a day, growing, developing, like I'll never be able to do in no other point in your life, except I guess when you're like from 1 to 2, you know, the baby gains. But I found my best results 2 full body workouts a week. And like the way that was, it was like a Tuesday, Friday split. That's how we train. I was on the bigger, faster, stronger program. And we would do, we had those 4 core lifts, right? So we do like 2 of them. Let's say it was bench and squat on Tuesday, and then some assistives or auxiliary lifts like curls, tricep extensions, leg curls, leg extensions, lat pull downs, some shoulder raises, whatever, like stuff that rounds it out. And then on Friday would be the other 2, which would be, we would do like, I think we did, was it bench and deadlift maybe on Tuesdays, and then Friday was like squat and power clean, right? So you want to do cleans and deadlifts are 2 big pulling exercises. You try to want to kind of split them up, or kind of maybe go upper, lower, 1 upper, 1 lower on that day. I did some 3-day a week too, and you'd focus on maybe 1 lift, maybe a bench day, a squat day, a deadlift day, and then you do assistives. And a lot of that depending on what was going on in the year, right? So if you're in season, it's probably just 2 because you're practicing, you're doing games. You want to back off on the lifting. Off season, we did do 3 sessions. And again, we would approach it with like focus on 1 main lift that day to start your workout. Then whatever you did after that was just assistive or complementary. I made incredible strength gains. Like it was a period of insane strength gains that I'll probably never be able to experience again in my life. And again, that's just the unique nature of that. It's also you're at your dumbest. I hate to tell you guys, the brain isn't finished. It's not even close. You reach your peak intelligence in some ways in your 50s. Maybe you're not as quick, but there's a crystallized intelligence that you hit in your late 40s, early 50s, and that's kind of the wisdom phase of life that you can apply to your exercise, where basically you're so smart about it that even though you can't physically do the maximums that you did when you were younger, you can structure things in a way that allows you to get just as much out of your training because of that knowledge, right? So that's what you have to look forward to in this. But again, so teens, we're building a base. Number 1, I'd emphasize a focus on the body weight first before adding external loads. Check out the book, Your Body is Your Barbell, if you want to learn about body weight training from me. But I keep it more sport, athletic, focused, fun, social, and diverse. So you kind of take advantage of that plasticity in your nervous system you can literally lean on for the rest of your life. And 2 to 3 workouts per week, I would say, day rest between, weekends off. And then, you're establishing at least a big 3. And I would do so in a way that, maybe you do want to start bench, squat, deadlift, but like make sure you're still doing the body weight stuff. In fact, one of the best programs you can do is you start with weights in your workout, right? Heavy, lower rep, and then you do some higher rep body weight stuff. So if I did a bench day, I could back off and do some push-ups, some dips, maybe some chest flies, right? And work on my body weight stuff. So just make sure you maintain that body weight base, and that's just something that can always be, you can lean on it when you don't have access to equipment. Because again, what ends up happening to people in their 20s is they have to get a job, they don't have enough knowledge of what to do on their own, and they usually don't have any money, no disposable income. So they have to rely on just what they learned in high school or grade school. So build that body weight base and establish your big 3 and make them ideally a big 3 that you can do forever and anytime, anywhere. Let's go to your 20s. This is the peak. And again, it's one of those things you say peak and it's like, well, what about, I have nothing to look forward to over 30 or after I'm out of my 20s. No, it's just a great example. Like I'll go to the two greatest basketball players of all time. Most people feel this way, right? You got MJ, you got LeBron. And with MJ, there was the peak, right? There was that 37-point season per game season in 87. Now he's getting knocked out of the playoffs, not a team player, shoot before pass, didn't really establish his leadership skills to the degree he needed, but that was the best his offense ever was. He was the perfect mix of the strength, the speed, the power, the stamina, and the skill of the sport. And you'll never see it. He never did it better. And for LeBron, that was probably like Miami when they repeated in Miami, where that was the most physically gifted that he was. Though the numbers are almost the same now for him in his year 21, 22nd season because of the evolution. Same thing with MJ. Came back from the first repeat after retirement and did another three-peat. And that wasn't the same guy who was, dunking from the free throw line. It was a lot of fadeaways and layups, but also a lot of passing and also a lot of leadership off the court, right? So, but the peak of it is going to happen in your 20s, whether it's sports or in the weight room or in your whatever fitness thing you're chasing, because it's the peak everything, right? Growth hormone, testosterone, metabolism, and just reference my notes as well. And it's also your prime fluid intelligence, which means you can respond the best and the fastest to new stimuli. So it's also a time to, for example, I got caught in the football track to get to college. Now football's done. What am I going to do now? Well, I was a lineman. If I was like 265, 275 my senior year, had just blown up my knee for the fourth surgery. And I'm like, you know what? I want to get shredded. I grew up a fat kid. I'm like, I've always seen my top two abs, even as fat as I was at some points. That's just how it worked. Luckily, because I was always doing stuff, but I had terrible eating habits, and I never really did enough cardio or total fitness. But I'm like, I want to get abs, and I got shredded, and people started asking me what I was doing. I started designing programs for students and professors at Amherst College my senior year, 2004, 2005, and I sold my first $100 program. I became a personal or fitness trainer right there. That's it. And I've been doing that ever since. That was my origin story. As lame as it is, that's how it was. And so what I'm trying to say is, like, it's also a time to just try a bunch of different stuff and switch things up, go heavy fat loss, get shredded, then see how much muscle you can gain. Maybe see how strong you can get. Then maybe test your endurance, right? You want to really take advantage of your peak abilities in your 20s, because now you don't have to do anything necessarily you don't want to do, like, as in, if you're not a professional athlete in high school, you got to get ready for a game or a season or a competition, right? Now you can do whatever you want, and it's on you. It's all about your own accountability. Maybe you stay active in some sort of recreational stuff or team stuff, and that helps you stay focused. But again, it's on you. So you've got to be motivated enough to do it. And but it is a great time to to really push yourself in other realms, because, like, you're going to be able to do the best you can at those things, like, physically. It just that's where you are, and you want to take advantage of that. My favorite training split in my 20s, and again, like, what I wanted to do versus what I ended up doing in my 20s was different, because I got into personal training boot camps, and I had to focus on what they wanted to do. And most people that I was working with were in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So I was catering to an older demographic, and I had to pay bills, and that's what we were looking for. So I went more of the, you would say, general fitness, metabolic conditioning route. But, and to do that at the highest level, I actually had to immerse myself in the training. But I still worked in some phases of time where I was just, bro down, throw down, so to speak. Or my favorite split for people in their 20s is 2 upper, 2 lower. Monday upper, Tuesday lower, take a day off. Thursday upper, 2, Friday lower, 2, and then you can have the weekends off. And maybe, like, there's one cardio day, one core day, and then there's one day completely off. That the amount of gains you can squeeze out of that split it's undefeated. You can switch it up constantly. It's also a split that you can shift to maintenance mode during busy times, or if you're going into some sort of in-season, whatever, if you're still very active in athletics, you can just do 1 upper and 1 lower week and maintain, but you want to do 2 upper, 2 lower to gain. And it's just a great split. You can focus on one half of your body at a time, especially as you're now more advanced in your training. You can start pushing the loads and the intensities and the volumes to levels you've never experienced in some ways. But you've got built-in recovery that way. So you can, and you can still get after it. Like, you can really push. So you can, I'm not saying you want to trash yourself, but, like, what I would do, I would trash my upper body one day, then I trash my lower body one day. I take a day off. I come back and do it again one more time. And then I take the weekends off, and the gains were unreal. But I also found myself doing a lot of, like, 3 full body workout a week splits, full body Metcon style, because, again, that was what was required of my job. But I do think in your 20s, you want to push the strength, power, ceiling as much as you can. It's going to obviously drop off. The higher the ceiling, the drop off is going to be higher, right? Too. So you just establish that the higher the ceiling in your 20s, the floor in your 30s, 40s, and 50s is higher. So, but again, you want to do so without increasing the risk of injury and joint wear and tear. And unfortunately, in my journey, I already had so much wear and tear on my knees by the time I was entering my 20s that that also threw things off for me. And I was able to continue pushing things upper body wise, but I couldn't do lower body. And then I developed I kind of became, people used to make fun of me about, you've got skinny, like my thighs are not what they were in my 20s that they are now, especially in my 30s when I was really pushing the leg training. People, so there was an imbalance there. The injuries do affect this, so I'm just letting you know. But I was a huge fan of that. Peak 20s is your peak. Again, that 2 upper, 2 lower, man. That you can hard gain your body. You get questions like, how do I gain size? The best split is 2 upper, 2 lower. You want to do a good mix of, you want to do it all. You want to do an exercise that multi-joint compound hits you in about a 4 to 6 rep range. You want to do some 8 to 12s. You want to do some 15 plus. You want to do high. You want to do low, medium, and high reps. And whether you shift that from workout to workout, month to month, or you do it all within the same workout, one movement's lower reps, one movement's medium reps, one movement's higher reps, you're going to do it all. You should do it all. That's the 20s. You do all the splits, you do all the styles, and you see what resonates best. And by the way, as you're going through this, the best thing, your best thing for you is the one you haven't done in a long time. Because you'll as you get more advanced, you will adapt and plateau to a certain routine much faster than you did in the beginning. And for beginners, you might not plateau like minimum 12 weeks, but typically you can go like 6 to 12 months doing the same exact thing without ever hitting a plateau, because you're in that beginner phase. And most of it's just learning the neurological skill-based approach to this stuff. But advanced trainees that have built a base in their teens and in their 20s looking to peak, usually it's like 3 to 6 weeks where you got to constantly change things up in terms of exercise selection, order, training tempo, volume, all that stuff. That's beyond this particular episode, but so that's 20s peak. 30s prime. So this is where your mind kind of finally catches up to your body, especially for men. I think the brain really doesn't stop developing until like mid 20s, maybe mid to late 20s. And then again, we're maybe the less mature of the genders, without getting into a can of worms there. But mind meets body, or the mind catches up, right? So now I've got a physical base. I've got enough experience where I can kind of know how to structure my own workouts or what works best for my body. And I can start really, and this is part of what I try to encourage people that I FaceTime with now. I take a couple people because I don't have a lot of time, and I'm trying to empower them and teach them how to make their own workouts, teach them how to train themselves. Because that's like, in theory, you should be able to design the best workout for you. How could I ever know what it's like to be inside of your body? Right. And then you know what you want to do, what you're good at, what you're bad at, to get someone to the point where they can make their own workouts and have fun with that creative process. They're more likely to stay in the game with this, and they're more likely to continue to make progress later in life. Because again, once you learn about exercise, how to structure things, and then the recovery piece and the lifestyle piece, you have ownership. So it really is just whether or not you're actually doing it, but when knowing what to do, not having to depend on someone to tell you what to do, it is empowering. Not that you don't continue to get guidance or ideas or that type of stuff. Like, I hope I'm more of a guide than anything else, exposing you to the best of what I know, and you take what you want, leave the rest. But it's also in the 30s, the prime time. Now it's your time. Like, you've done enough. What are you really good at and or enjoy? Now try to be the best you possibly can be at it. Because in your 30s, you finally start making some money. Some call it, for most people, it's a way better decade than your 20s. Now, your 20s, especially if you spent, like, you were trying to just live it up in your 20s, like you were going to die at 30, and then you didn't really build enough of a career. You're behind financially, right? We all make whatever, we all prioritize what we prioritize. And so if you're catching up in your 30s, Now it's going to be really hard to fit in. Fitness will be less of a priority. Maybe you're starting a family. And again, as you advance in your career, there's more responsibility. So that being said, like, you want to peak at something like, I guess, there was in some ways, like a peak I hit when I was at Men's Health, 35. That was because what I also did a couple years leading up to getting I had worked with Men's Health for 8 years total, but the 2 years I actually worked there as their fitness director. In the year leading up to that, I said, you know what? I really hit the body weight stuff for a while. I wrote the book, Your Body's Your Barbell. And I just wanted to go back to the barbell and see what I could do now. Because I was good at it. Like I was body weight stuff. I mean, it's very challenging for me. I've always been, as an adult, I've always been over 200 pounds. I'm 6'2", longer limbs. So it's not like, gymnasts are like 5'6", 150 pounds, right? But I prefer body weight stuff because I don't need weight. And so it's all like anything I do with my body weight, I can build muscle and strength and that type of thing. So it works out for me that way. But it's also like, it's not like where I wasn't built to be a gymnast or be the best at body weight stuff compared to other people, but that's not how I look at things. But strength, I had a strength foundation and I was good at it. So I'm like, I want to go back and I want to see what I can do now and really push it. And I got pretty big and strong fast. Still in my mid-30s, it kind of peaked at Men's Health, where I had just a pretty unique blend of size and strength and conditioning. I was still fluctuating. Like I still have to cut to get really lean for like a DVD, like a MetaShred or that type of thing. And I'd be like maybe at 235, 240, but I could easily get up to that. In fact, my body almost preferred that. It was harder for me to get lean. It always is. Now it's actually, it's kind of flipped finally in my life where it's flipped. Things have kind of caught up, but so yeah, I was good at it. And I had been off for it for a while. I had healed a lot of the injuries I had been dealing with. I wanted to see what I could do. And I really pushed the loads, and I hit my all-time deadlift at 525, no belt, no straps, overhand grip. And, so that was pretty great. And I was playing pickup basketball. It was awesome. Like, it was like almost like college in some ways. I'd go lift for about 90 minutes to hour and a half to 2 hours, and I go play basketball for a couple hours. And I did that a couple times a week, and it was just that's like that was just the dream. Just everything I love to do and was good at, and I was able to do that. But I can't do that now. So can't do that now. But that's what I'm saying. But I was able to do it, and I'll never forget it. And it was a beautiful time. And maybe I can get back to it at some point. Now the work responsibilities are too high. Now I'm dealing with a more advanced form of arthritis in my joints. Now I can't recover the way that I used to. So I've had to kind of evolve my training on the fly. Even though I made a lot of key changes, the body is going to change on you. And we all have our own injury histories and different things that happen. So that's the prime phase. The final thing I'll say about so chase a dream though. You know what you're probably good at this point. See how far you can push it. That can really keep you engaged as things get busy and tough in life. But now you know, like 30s are the beginning of the end. I'm sorry, it's the end of the beginning. So now, things get a little bit stiff, and you're having more off days in terms of like I can't lift today. I just don't feel good. You got to start prioritizing the recovery, warm up, and cool down pieces of your workouts and your training. Because if you don't do that in your 30s, the 40s are going to absolutely knock you the fuck out. It's going to be a TKO. I'm telling you right now, because even people that did do that I know of, they enter their 40s, and it's going to take it's going to take you a couple of years to adjust to this new body. It's just going to do it. So, I was able to do it because I had already intervened. So I've already made better exercise choices. I had already started doing more foam rolling or massage, a lot more mobility work. My diet was tightening up. I was doing extra recovery with regards to the compression, the elevate, and in my 40s, I've taken it to a whole new level out of necessity, but also because I do enjoy it. You fall in love with recovery. And if you don't, That makes it tough to do it. And that's the stuff you need the most, because now you can't manage stress, not just gym stress, work stress, life stress. You just can't handle as much, or the same amount of stress is going to bury you in a way that like it wouldn't in your 20s. It's starting to in your 30s. By the time you get to 40s, like a stressful day can absolutely just wipe you out in your 40s. It just is what it is. And, we do the best we can, but prioritize that now. Take at least 10 minutes to warm up and cool down. Build that into your workout. Instead of doing an hour workout, it's going to be 40 minutes now, and there's 10 minutes warm up, 10 minutes cool down. And just make that a staple. And maybe whatever you're leaving on the table short term, you're gaining in royalties for life in the decades to come. And in terms of split in the 30s, this is the time where I feel like, and I saw this with members of my old app, the Daily BJ, where, again, this is you're balls deep in life, right? And 9 months out of the year, I think 3 full body workouts a week, kind of the classic circuit or Metcon style. They can only take as little as 20 minutes. Those make the most sense from a sustainability standpoint. People in their 30s thrive on what I call the 3-20-52, 3 full body workouts a week, 20 minutes each, 52 weeks of the year. It still allows you to do other things. And it's a really solid, sustainable approach. And you get it all. It's like a melting pot of all the key fitness qualities. It's also a great time to just say, you know what, I'm going to start moving lighter weight faster and for longer periods of time to, make lighter loads go a longer way, make heavyweight feel lightweight feel like heavyweight, and just start like saving my body, because I don't want to be broken down as soon as my 40s. Like you see a lot of these people are that do push it, right? So I would really push you on that. And then 3 months out of the year, so 3/4 of the year, 9 months of the year, 3 full body workouts a week, 20 minutes each, Metcon style, amazing stuff. You'll be able to stick it out. Not that you always do it that way, but you can lean on that. And then 3 months out of the year, typically the time of year you're most motivated, you have the most time and extra energy that you can devote to training stress or nutrition stress versus other stressors. Maybe that's summer if you're a teacher. Maybe that's the winter time when you get your calories up. And I don't know your work schedules, but you have to identify that in your calendar. And then 3 months out of the year, you got to compete and you got to push yourself to the limit in your 30s. You still have that capacity, and it's good for you to do it. You'll maintain your resilience both mentally and physically, and you got to keep finding out what's inside, because not only do you not necessarily need to do that as much in your 40s plus, but you also necessarily can't do that as often. And this is kind of the last time to really do that, in my opinion. Like really, really do that. Like I'm talking like limit, like true, like pushing all the way to the edge style of stuff. You can still do that. They're prime years still, and you're taking advantage of the previous 2 decades. And you can specialize in something for 3 months out of the year, but you can't do it all year. You got to really start taking a smart planned approach, waving in and out. And that really works for a lot of people in my experience, also in my own experience. Entering the 40s. And this is an absolute rebuild phase. Let me take a little sip here, sweating my ass off. This is a rebuild phase. And, rebuild, initially you hear, oh God. If you're a sports fan, it's like the last thing you want is to follow a team going through a rebuild. But all good rebuilds end up usually with championship seasons. And you're now at an age where it's mind over body, right? You have enough experience, and now you're not so short-term focused. And I've had to do that both with I've been rebuilding my mind, my body, and my business, and ultimately my lifestyle, right? It's been tough. I've had to do things the last couple of years that have really tested, in some ways, it also coincides with an ego death. Because now I'm doing things, your 20s, especially in your teens and 20s, you're doing things to impress and to prove. and to establish, and that kind of dwindles down a little bit in your 30s. But the time you reach 40, none of that really matters. You still want to show you can do what you did, but no one gives a fuck. You realize no one gives a fuck. That's just this is how I speak. I'm just telling you right now, like, no one cares how you look. No one cares how much money you have. No one cares what car you drive. I'm just telling you right now, like, in life, they don't give a shit. They don't think about you at all. All people do is think about themselves. The only time they'll think about you is if you actually add value to their life. And it's not your bench press or your bank account, unless you're giving them money. Or, whatever, like, maybe they like, if you have a Jeep or something, you like to go cruise on the coast, that adds value to their life. But what I'm saying is, like, you realize what's actually really important in life. And there's probably a handful of people and a handful of things that actually matter to you that in your experience, and that's what you prioritize. Everything else really is noise. And there's a lot of comfort in that, honestly. Like, things simplify, and you kind of go from pushing to a maximum in your 30s, and now it's a more minimalistic approach. I've got to simplify. I'm more tired. I've got to sometimes nap in the afternoon, and I got to go to bed early every day. Uncle Baby's got no late nights. Occasionally I'll push it to midnight, occasionally, but I just don't want to feel like shit the next day. Frankly, I got too much work to do in my 40s now. So, those days are done in many cases, and the rebuild is tough. What I will say is, if you're just entering, I have a lot of people right now entering this time that have followed me from their 20s into their 30s, and I've been doing this a long time, and people have stuck with me, and we've done this together. And I know it's been tough for a lot of you. I've got a lot of people 35 to 44 that they got hit by the pandemic, and/or have young kids, and/or have had some real shocks to their business career, and/or all of it. Like, all of it's happened too. And fitness has been pushed all the way to the side. There were people that were like, the most gung-ho people I've ever known in my life. I thought they would always do this. They're no longer part of what we do here. They're gone. Hopefully they're alive. I don't mean to joke about it. I'm just saying, like, life smacked them in the fucking faces. And I know what happened to me. And I know what happened to many of you. And those that are still with it, I commend you. It has not been easy to do so. But you've got to be willing to take some steps back now and go back to ground zero. It's not easy. Like, it's not easy going back to a hands elevated push-up when you can do single arm push-ups. And you could say, why would I have to do that? Well, you don't understand. Like, now if you've got a shoulder problem, you're not going to fix it by doing single arm push-ups. Likely what's the case is you've got to go all the way back to the beginning where it started, and you've got to fix your form and technique, widen the base again, and then come back up the right way. And yeah, of course you'd like to start that way. But the thing is, even if you started that way in your teens, which I do recommend, things are going to come up. You're going to get hurt. Injuries happen on and off the playing fields or courts, or they happen in the gym, or it's just now you have arthritis. Most people as they enter their 40s, there's arthritis somewhere: elbow, knee, spine, ankle, hands, neck. Some people have it in multiple spots. So you've got to now do corrective and rehabilitation. And there is a rebuild in order. And that's great. I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of joy in the rebuild, because it's like, oh, wow, like, I didn't realize I was doing this wrong for the last 20 plus years. So you actually have to unlearn some bad stuff and relearn the way things always should have been. And also, it's a new body you're working with. So now some exercises that that resonated in your 20s, you can't do anymore. And by the way, like I say, your big three matters, because some of you can't bench press anymore, or maybe now it has to be dumbbells, but really what you need is, you should have really just worked on that push-up in the first place. And instead of blowing out your back deadlifting, you should have really just focused on the hang, which became the pull-up. And instead of really just like trying to see how much you can squat, well, maybe I should have just learned how to squat on one leg, because I could be doing amazing things on one leg right now without as much stress on my knees and spine. And I can do it anytime, anywhere, right? So again, like, you'll go through it, you'll make your mistakes, and that's fine. And maybe I'm an old, dirty bastard and I know nothing, but I'm just telling you what I know and what's worked for me. And People always end up coming back to what they should have been doing in the first place. But maybe you can continue to do it all at the highest level, and I applaud you if you can. Most bodies can't. There are some bodies that can. They just have unlimited resiliency, good genetics, and they've been lucky to not get injured anywhere, and they can keep rocking it out. But you go back to ground zero and rebuild, because now you're investing in the next 40 years. Like, I know very few of you do fitness for a living, right? But from my standpoint, and I've mentioned this before on other things too, if I just maintain the way I am now, I just become more impressive every year. I'm going to get grayer and wrinklier and whatever else. But if I can stay lean, muscular, athletic by the time I get in my 50s, and I can stay off, and keep this arthritis at bay as best I can and all that stuff, maybe even I get some joints replaced, I'm better than ever. Who knows? I'll be able to do this at an even better level. It'd be more impressive. So for me, I'm like, okay, I'm always thinking of my 50s right now with things I do day in, day out. And I'm leaving things on the table for my 40s, knowing that, because I'm playing it like a savings bond. That's how I'm playing it now. There's no short-term instant gratification in my training. There is, in the sense that I do what makes me feel good and what I enjoy, but that tends to not be the stuff that causes me pain or puts me on the sideline or that I can't recover from, right? It's because I'm smart about it. I've taken more of it. I share it with you guys. I know it's not sexy. I do the EHO every hour on the hour. I do at least a minute of something. It's typically 2 to 5 minutes of something. And sometimes it's a blend of things. It's mostly mobility types, like mobility strength work, so to speak. It's a lot of hangs, a lot of down dogs, hip mobility stuff, a lot of body weight based, mobility centric, but still strength stuff that I just pepper in throughout the day. But this is like the decade, again, it's a decade of heart attacks. Your heart starts to decline. So now I prioritize the cardio more than I ever have. You don't need to as much in your 20s because the metabolism is so high, and your cardio probably just needs to be more specific to a sport or activity. If you're going to run, you got to do your running. In your 30s, that's when the metabolism starts to drop a bit. So you do have to kind of like those 3 workouts a week that are kind of your blending strength and cardio Metcon style. You might have to do some like 2 to 3 days of additional cardio, whether it's steady state intervals or a mix. And you might want to start getting the habit of walking every day, just getting that movement base. But I both walk every day, a lot of weighted walking, which is low impact and helps with the bone density and just maintaining that muscle mass and that ability to move loads for time. And but I also like prioritizing an additional training too. So, sled work, boxing, pool. It's become more important to me. And so I pepper in my strength throughout the day because of my work schedule. And I can just, it starts easier in the day. Maybe it starts with some 50 to 100 pull aparts. And then I start doing, we're talking hangs right now. And then, I'll start doing my bridge hangs, and I'll start doing my vertical hangs or self-assist. And then I'm going unassisted. I tend to peak strength wise mid to late afternoon. And then I'll do my midday cardio / walk. And then I do at least 20 minutes of training after 4 p.m. to end my day. Sometimes it's an hour. Sometimes it's just the 20. Sometimes it's 40. It just depends on how I feel and what's going on. I have to film that week or how my recovery is. And but I fit it in. And that's part of what this Hangs Challenge is all about. It's teaching you. And by the way, you still want to do this. You still want to EHO in your 20s and 30s. And you like, if anything, like you can do more volume than ever. You can EHO and hit the weights classic style. And I think people overlook the best athletes in the world. You see these Olympics just went by, and you see these hurdlers. And my buddy Dave Jack works with a company called We Are Press, and they were working with a Olympic level hurdler. And he says the thing he does every day, he does it, and he peppers in all day long. He just works a body weight hip circle, inside, outside, just working on that hurdle pattern. No load. He's just constantly refining that movement. That's his movement base. He does it throughout the day, and then he trains. So there's movement base and there's training. They're different things. There's practice and there's training. Those are different things. So you kind of get into more of a practice mode with the stuff because it's easy to recover from. You can manage fatigue, you can avoid the fatigue and the soreness, which we can't bounce back from. And because what our bodies need now is more frequent submaximal movement because we get so stiff. So if we bomb the system with a lot of intensity and volume, then we don't want to do anything the next day, but then we get even stiffer. And that's where in your 40s, it's just a different body. And it's an acceptance journey, and you just got to kind of get with it. But you do have to prioritize cardio and mobility over strength. And some of you will resist it, and others of you will just accept it and move on, and that's okay. But I'm just telling you right now that's kind of how it is. I guess the final thing I was saying in the 40s, the final piece there too is like a lot of people it's midlife. So you're going to go through a midlife crisis. Everybody does. And you're going to think, okay, do I want to do what I currently do for the next 40 years? Or do I want to make some key changes in my life? And so a lot of people get divorced. A lot of people change careers. A lot of people they take inventory, and that's shocking. And it's a real stress. And that has to be factored into your fitness journey. So give yourself a little grace. You're going to be slower. You're going to have some real old man, old woman days mixed in there. But this is also a tough time in a lot of cases too. And change is not easy. And as I kind of go into the 50s, which is the mastery phase, again, like part of what I'm thinking now is like, if I just don't get hurt and I just keep getting, like my form gets so good, like every movement, I'm just taking perfect pictures, and I'm doing it light enough most of the time. So I'm not wearing myself down, but I can still occasionally go and push myself medium to heavy. By the time in my 50s, man, I'm going to be really good at this. Because now that's going to be technically it's 5 decades, but really like true 4+ decades of just nonstop work, where like I started working out when I was 14, haven't missed a week of training since. I can leverage all of that. And I think that's when there's a masterpiece in the making. Truly, because again, if I'm still here and I'm still doing it at this level or higher, that's probably my unstoppable phase. And that's also the phase where I'll have the most wisdom. And maybe that's also a time for me when I don't have to work as hard, and I can actually put more energy and effort back into fitness in a way I can't do right now in my 40s, because I've accepted the fact that I just probably didn't do enough of the saving in my, I worked too hard in my teens and 20s, and I found myself like never present in my 30s, and finally kind of peaked career health-wise, or you could say in my mid-30s, I guess the Men's Health gig and stuff like that. And then leaving Men's Health, saying, you know what, let me just enjoy life for the first time. And, you spend some money and, whatever. Like, again, we're all going to go through that journey in the way you want. Now, I know some people that worked too hard in their 30s, didn't really enjoy it, and now they're paying for it with health conditions. They may have more money and more savings, but they're not enjoying their life as much, right? So I don't know the balance. We're all trying to find it for ourselves. But for me, I have to prioritize my business, because I know, like, the way I feel now some days, energy-wise, like, I don't want to have to be doing this workload in my 50s. It's going to kill me. And I'm just, I don't want to do that. I'd like to get back to putting more emphasis into what I love to do versus editing videos for, like, the other day I edited videos for 6 straight hours. I'm like, wow, this is not what I wanted to do in my 40s, but this is what it is. And I don't want to do it in my 50s. So I'm going to have to just suck it up and do it now and be okay with whatever else comes with it. Right. So I mentioned that if you're going through it now, I get it. I'm going through it with you, and maybe we can help. Hopefully I can help you stay in the game. All right. And you guys have always helped keep me accountable, right? Because I've got to show up for you and make this stuff happen. Right. But as we enter the 50s, the mastery decade, I just read an article on this. It was very interesting about how, like, you go through, like, you kind of, so for some people, their teens is either the worst or the best time of their life. Some people peak early. Some people are late bloomers, right? And then in the 20s, I think the general consensus in the 20s in terms of just like life is it sucks. No one takes you seriously. You have no money unless you were born rich, and you're literally building whatever you're trying to build from scratch. Finally, in your 30s, after years of work in your 20s, things start to pay off. You start making some money. You start getting more free time. You start doing some great things. And but then your 40s hit, and some things there starts some subtraction happens, right? Like some subtraction happens, meaning you lose energy, you lose time, work is harder, and or you're not as motivated to do what you used to do, but you still have to do it. And sometimes more of it. And sometimes your happiness goes down. And it kind of sucks, right? Because you're like, well, what's going on here? And this article is like, well, actually, it's just a natural thing, like where you kind of get, happiness can peak in some ways in your 30s, and then it comes down a bit in your 40s. And then your 50s, it can potentially even shoot past what it was in its 30s because there's what's called a crystallized intelligence, meaning you really understand life, not just for you, but how to live with others and what's important in terms or prioritization is now just like it's been crystallized. And maybe also you shift to more of the teaching others or empowering others phase of your life. It's not as much leg work or manual labor, so to speak, and it's more about dropping knowledge. And not that you can't do that in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, but it's if you've been doing something daily, weekly, through up into your 50s, well, you're someone who has a lot to offer. So you just got to stay in the game. And that's how I kind of look at it too. With that too, and I'm trying to take that mindset now in my 40s still, you are going to notice like, whoa, like I can't remember these names, or I'm starting to forget some things. It's not just long-term, short-term. So there's a slowing of cognition. Learning is harder. You've got to push that. I think the 40s is a really good time to push the mind. Maybe if not more than the body, just as much. So as we started the Hangs Challenge, I committed to learning. I got the Duolingo app. I mentioned this previously, but just why. It's like I had noticed, like, wow, because I was I was a class clown until I got 100% on a quiz in 8th grade, and then I ended up becoming a summa cum laude A student that got into the #1 liberal arts school in the country with football, but still. And I had just incredible study habits, and I could really push like photographic memory style stuff. That has helped me a lot with designing workouts and just that type of thing. But I start to notice that was slipping a bit after I turned 40. So, one way to push that is learning a new language. So I'm investing into at least like 5 minutes a day into Spanish. I have the Duolingo app, and I do it on the shitter because that's a pocket of time where I'm either like going to go look at a social media thing, or like, check email or whatever. Like, you know what? I'm going to do something productive. And that's going to challenge my brain when I am sharpest right after my morning coffee. And I'm 23 straight days. Once I get to 21 days, now it's in. I'm going to keep with it. I'm enjoying it. And I'm actually feeling the effects now with my main work. Like I'm feeling a little bit sharper. If you don't use it, you lose it. And so maybe it could be a new language. It could be a new skill. It could be a new something, but it shouldn't just be fitness related. It should be something else, and it should really challenge your mind, because it starts to happen in your 40s. By the time you get to 50, you're literally going to be saying, without training that, you're literally going to be like the classic, like calling someone by their first name, their last name, right? You're mixing the order of names, or you're like all that stuff starts to happen in a way that just now people like, especially if you're like front facing, public speaking, like no one is going to want to listen to me if I'm constantly forgetting things, or I'm very slow in delivery. That has to be worked. So, I think you want to start pushing that now, but I think especially in your 50s, both, mind and body, the newness is now more important than ever, because if we're not challenging that, we start to get old fast. It does slow aging. And if anything, you can reverse it. There's a lot of reversal that can happen in your 40s and 50s by taking on good habits. I think in some ways I felt, we all kind of aged accelerated during the pandemic. But because of a lot of the changes I made from that event, lifestyle, business, fitness, nutrition, recovery, I feel like I actually look better now than I did a couple of years ago, or even like late 30s, or even mid 30s in some ways, because of, skin's looking better, because I'm sleeping better, I'm eating better, I'm hydrating better. I'm also not stressing my body out as much. My sex drive is as high as it's been since I was a teenager, because I'm no longer destroying myself in the gym. So I actually my dick can actually get up. I'm not that it was ever really a huge problem, to be honest, but I'm just saying right now, like, you don't realize how much that excessive overtraining, overexercising, undereating destroys your sex life and affects your relationships because of the mood issues. That's part of it too, and that's very important as you get older, because again, like, people are, if you're in your mid to late 30s or older, all day long, all we do is get hit by hair loss and ED ads, and also weight loss all day long. Hair loss, ED, and weight loss. We're basically the Hims demographic. So, we want to try to fight that as best we can. And the final thing I had in that was it. Okay, so training by the decade. What I'll say, though, in terms of training splits, again, we talk about crystallized intelligence. Like, only you are going to know what the best training split for you is. I'd say over 40, right? I've been evolving my training on the fly all this year, because I got hit with the next level of arthritis, bone spur type stuff in my knees. I just, for the first 6 months of the year, I was just trying to find how not to get these to swell up. Every week it was swelling up. I finally, I think, have kind of figured it out. And now I've evolved a lot of things, and I found kind of a new structure that is really working for me. But what I'm trying to tell you is the life experiences you've had in and out of the gym are going to dictate what that's going to look like over 40. I'm just telling you right now. It's not going to be as cookie cutter as it might be in your teens, 20s, and 30s. So, but that's good, because you've got experience at this point, and you've got knowledge. And also, like, the beauty of middle-aged fitness is you can do whatever you want. There's no pressure. You don't need to worry about preordained deadlines. Deadline training tends to turn your joints into dust. Now you can just do whatever you want day in, day out. You might have a plan, but you can adjust it on the fly based on how you're feeling day to day or what's coming up, and just do what you want and have fun and just keep getting in the reps. But, variety is the spice of life at this age, and there's no need to push ourselves to that degree anymore. And we can lean on the base. We can lean on all the reps we built in the previous decades. So, and again, I'm not 50 yet. So, I also want to be cognizant. It's so funny, I know there was a time, and I was 22, and I was telling people 30 years older and more to me what to do and how to live their life. And it's hilarious. And they listened, but it's also funny, because what did I even know? I was 22. I was doing the best I can and everything else like that. And not that, not to discourage the 20 somethings, but, I now have obviously much more humble now because of what life has done to me. And I don't know exactly what it's going to look like in my 50s, but I have hope. And I'm also, again, I'm planning for that. And in some cases, by just making smarter choices and more sustainable choices, so that I can hit that mastery phase in stride. So, but I do anticipate every decade some sort of rebuild and some sort of evolution, because again, I'm going to be dealing with a different body, and it is as slow as it might be aging with all the interventions. It is an aging body. So, we have any member questions before I check out here? I wanted to reward our paying members only with comments or questions here. But here we got Tom Boyle, the guy who inspired the episode. Spent most of my 20s focused on the amount of weight and size. Turned 30 in March, and my focus has completely shifted to mobility, cardio, body weight, and efficiency of time spent training. TB 30. It'll be TB 31 next year. But the man who inspired this episode, what a great way to end with that comment. And again, this is maybe the most important rule of training by the decade. I'd recommend always being at least a decade ahead schedule. I am making the changes now for my 50s. I'm being proactive about it. I'm not going to let the way that the 40s was tough. I was making preparations, but I guess I didn't really anticipate how it was going to be. And it was a lot. There's a quarter life crisis, they say, and there's a midlife. Midlife was tough. Midlife really tested me inside and outside, and everything in between. So I don't want the 50s to be such a slap in the face as my 40s were. So I'm even more proactive about it, and I'm prepping for that, like way ahead. So the way Tom is doing this now, like Tom could have been trying to push that, what he did in his 20s, well into his 30s to his late 30s, may have been able to get away with it, and then would have absolutely collapsed by the time he hit 40. And then that's when things get bad really fast, right? Because now your metabolism is significantly lower. Like if I ate the way I ate now in my 20s, I'd have zero body fat. I'm pretty lean like now, but like I mean, I didn't have to be this strict to get that lean in my 20s. Like now it's like, it's crazy. Cause again, I am 42 now. So, but you get more discipline as you get older. And luckily, thank God, I just can't eat. I'm not as hungry, nor can I eat as much as I used to, because thank God that was the main issue. I just ate too much. And I still probably do eat a little too much on the weekends, but my whole thing is I'll get away, do what you can get away with for as long as you can before you can't. And then, whatever's forced on you is forced on you. But trying to be a decade ahead, I guess that's like the bonus tip. It's making those changes ahead of everyone else. So, because again, like changes take time. It takes you about 3 to 5 years to really solidify some key changes and get that, really understand how it looks like for you individually. But then by the time you get to that next decade, you're already doing laps. Everyone else is at the starting line. And I think that's a good way to end this out. Gave you hour and 10 plus minutes of my time. A simple like. It really just go boom. Go just touch it. I dare you to touch the like button. Help us out. Share, subscribe, obviously. I try and post notifications. And again, we love your support. Click the join button. Check out our membership options here on YouTube. Our YouTubers get, by the way, YouTube, you get the podcast first. You get all my best content here, short form, long form, vertical, wide. And obviously, this is the only place now to get my exclusive programming and my database of content. 3 tiers of membership. The VIP one is the best. You get, for less than $1 a day every month, you get either a new training plan or a challenge. Bonus content that's also ad-free. It's ad-free. All the ad-free stuff is for VIP members only. But I still make, and this channel, like, again, people have asked, like, how and why are you posting like 2 to 3 times a day on, how do you do it? I don't know, because most people just do 1 to 3 videos a week, but I do it because nobody else is doing it in my space. And even though it's not going as fast as I would like, or many of you say like most underrated channel out there, or, I can't believe you only have, whatever it is, 45,000 subscribers or whatever it is at the time. I used to be insulted by that. And now I'm like, I do appreciate that. Cause at least sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy. Like, is there a reason I'm working harder than everyone else and I'm putting out the best stuff as frequently as I am in a way no one else has, and stuff that I think truly, like, I don't share. It's not even necessarily what I'm doing. What I think is best for the people out there, the average person watching. But you're watching, and I thank you for that. And especially, like, it's one thing to like, share, subscribe, but to put your hard-earned money behind the channel, man, that means a lot. And I will honor that, again, with the early access, the ad-free programming and plans and bonus content prior to reply to comments. And Tom Boyle, our VIP member, got a full episode out of it. I can't guarantee this for everyone, but he was one of our first people that signed up. And it means a lot, Tom. Hope this helps you out, and I hope this helps all of you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. More to come. Love you guys. Peace.